Well, they say everything comes in threes. My new 3D printer has decided to break down for the second time. I've had to replace the motherboard and now the sensor's gone on it. Ah well, and my engine, that looks as though it's got a leaking casting, cylinder casting, it's gone porous. And finally my clock here, my John Wilding clock, which has been going since 1986 when I first made it, has decided it's had enough and it's going to stop. So I'm going to have to pull it to bits and see what the problem is. The first job will be to let the spring down because it's half wound. It's not all that inclined to go. I'll put the pendulum back on. It goes for 2 or 3 days and then it stops. And I did wonder whether this spring here behind the wheel, which keeps the hands tight, was a bit too strong and was overloading it, because I had to replace it some years ago. Still, I ran it without the hands on and it still stops, so perhaps it's just dirty. So the first job, I'll have to put a spanner on here, take the tension off and let this ratchet drop. Being almost fully wound, that's going to be quite tight. Still, it'll come to bits. I've got this antique King Dick spanner here. Just the job for this. That's not clamped tight, but it's enough. Now I can take the load off and gradually, until it's going to be a slow process. That proved too slow, so I think a quicker way would be to let the clock run down naturally, and to do that, if I just remove the escapement or stop it being engaged, then the wheels will spin freely until it's run out. I can just dismantle this bracket on the back. Now if I just disengage, a lot quicker than doing it by hand. Now I've just got to pull it all to pieces. This bell was cast at the same foundry as Big Ben was. When I made this, I had very little equipment at the time. I had an old ML7 Myford lathe, and I had to make up fly cutters and dividing heads and all sorts. This is where everything goes flying. Got to free each corner. There we go. With a bit of luck. Oh dear. There we are. Not too bad. Right, let's lift these off as a pair. That looks mucky. Right, so perhaps it's just a good clean. I'll have a look at all the bearings. Yeah, the wire is bronze. If you're thinking of making a John Wilding clock, and I can recommend them, the only problem I've got is that it only goes for 7 days, just over 7 days, and so it barely reaches a week. And the last sort of few hours it goes very slowly, of course. So if I were making it again, I would put another couple of turns on this fusee here and make everything just that little bit wider, and then it would last a good 8 days and become a proper 8-day clock. Cool. When I think I had to cut all this out by hand, by drilling in hand and then filing it, my word, I wonder how many hours it took me. I obviously want to do the minimum amount of work on it because I want to keep it as original as possible. The bearings for the barrel and the fusee, there's practically no wear showing at all on those, so I shan't need to do anything to that. This one, the hour wheel, that's not too bad. I think I can get away with just polishing those back up again. This is quite a big one, so there's very little on it. It just needs perhaps a little bit of a shine. But these two, now, different story. I'm afraid this one's worn quite badly. It's where it shows it's wasted away there. And that means that both this end and the other end in the frame, they're going to need attention. Now, if I had a clockmaker's lathe, it might be different. I'd just break these ends off and drill and put new ones in. But these are Loctited on, so it's going to be a much easier job, just simply to take those off, make a new shaft up. And what I'll do is I'll make these ends a little bit bigger than the size that's recommended in his book. And that will allow me to go to the frame, and instead of having to put new bearings in here, new bushes, I'll be able to make those slightly bigger with a broach. Anyway, that's what I'll have to do. That's a fair amount of work to get on with there. We'll see how it goes. The escape wheel's just the same, both ends. And a bit concerned about the steel in there, the teeth in this lantern pinion. They are definitely showing signs of wear. That's going to be a bit of a fiddle, but I still have the pivot steel, I think, somewhere. So that's two shafts to make. The pinion, lantern pinion for this one, that's okay. So I'm happy with that one. So it's a question now, I think, of measuring up where its position is. And then taking them apart. Bit of heat required. Well, it came apart easily enough. A little bit of heat. And I fortunately do have two pieces of the right size, 2.27mm diameter. They sort of come in random thicknesses and sizes. It's a hardened steel, which is why it's blue, but it still does turn. You can still turn the ends. The only problem I've got now is finding some collet to hold it in the lathe, because it's got to be accurately centered, obviously. I'm not sure I have anything that will fit, so I shall have to make something somehow. Anyway, that's it for this one. I'll see how it goes.